Hello everyone, and this is The Promised Neverland. Enjoy the viewing. The film is set in the Grace Fieldhouse Orphanage, which has become a happy home for many children of different ages. 15-year-old Emma has lived there since birth, and, together with two other teenagers, Norman and Ray, helps run the household for the orphanage's caretaker, Isabella, whom everyone affectionately calls Mom. All the children study a great deal, and after classes they are allowed to play in the garden. The only thing they are forbidden to do is leave the orphanage grounds. All the children have a tattoo with an identification number and may stay at the orphanage only until the age of 16. However, they are usually adopted much earlier. Today, little Connie is leaving for a new family, and everyone gathers in the main hall to say goodbye to her. Emma is convinced that the outside world is wonderful, so she dreams of leaving this place as soon as possible. And in order not to lose touch, she agrees with Norman that they will write letters to each other. When everyone has gone, the girl notices a stuffed rabbit on the table that Connie has forgotten. Ray says that the light at the gate is still on, and that, if they hurry, they might catch up with the girl. Despite the strict rule forbidding children to leave the orphanage at night, Emma and Norman rush outside to return the toy. Reaching the gate, they find no one. Emma decides to look into a truck parked nearby, and to her horror, sees the body of the unfortunate girl inside, with a red flower protruding from her chest. Startled by a sudden noise, the frightened children hide under the truck, holding their breath, and in the next moment, a huge paw drops down in front of them. They hear several demons discussing the orphanage among themselves, calling it a farm and admiring the taste of human meat. As one of them places Connie's body into a container, he asks Isabella when they will be able to feast on the older children. But the woman does not have time to answer, as one of the demons senses the presence of intruders. When he looks under the truck, he finds only the stuffed rabbit, while the children are already far away. Once at a safe distance, Emma breaks down in tears. Their mom, the woman they had trusted without question, had been deceiving them, selling children to demons as food. Returning to the orphanage, the two decide not to tell Ray or the others anything until they come up with a solid escape plan. In the morning, Emma sadly watches the children bustling around Mom and finally understands why those who left the orphanage never send letters. Later, Norman suggests that they break the rule and go beyond the fence surrounding the grounds, where, after a while, they discover a very tall wall. A sudden noise in the garden forces them to return. A friend of one of the girls has gone missing in the forest during a game of hide-and-seek, but Mom, after glancing at some kind of device, finds the lost girl far too quickly as if she already knew where she was. This leads Norman to realize that all the children have a tracking chip in their earlobes. A little later, Isabella noticed Emma thoughtfully studying one of Connie's drawings. She already knew that the children had left the orphanage at night and tried to catch the girl out, but for the first time, Emma lied to the woman. Ray also noticed that his friends had been acting strangely ever since that night, so he followed them all the way to the forest and forced them to tell him the whole truth. Contrary to Emma's expectations, Ray believed them, but immediately stated that it would be impossible to save everyone and that only the three of them would survive. Emma is outraged, but Ray points out that outside they will almost certainly encounter demons, and if they take the other children with them, they will only become a burden. Before escaping, the friends decide to learn more about the monsters and go to the library. There they find many books by someone named William Minerva, all bearing an owl seal. Each seal is different and contains a hidden word written in Morse code. The heroes manage to decipher the words truth, farm, danger, and promise. Emma is convinced that Minerva is their ally in the outside world, since through his books he was trying to warn them of the danger. Ray puts forward the idea that demons love brains, and that the smarter a child is, the tastier they are. That is why they are constantly tested. The best results belong to the three of them, which means they cannot afford to waste time. Unexpectedly, the headmistress introduces a new resident of the orphanage, Sister Crone, who will now be helping her run things. Since Isabella now has an assistant, the children decide to be even more cautious. Meanwhile, in the office, Crone says that it is a great honor for her to work at the best meat farm in the country. When she asks why an assistant was needed, the headmistress coldly replies that their secret has been exposed. 3 teenagers have seen the demons and the corpse, so Crone will be keeping an eye on them. The woman grows agitated, since, according to protocol, the violators should be immediately reported to headquarters. But Isabella forbids her to speak of it, stating that she will deal with the children herself. The next day, Emma begins preparing the children for escape, disguising the training as a game of hide and seek. Unexpectedly, Crone joins them, and the teenagers see this as a perfect opportunity to learn more about their enemy. The woman deftly catches the younger children, but soon notices that the older ones easily outplay her, clearly demonstrating their abilities. She asks the headmistress about this, and Isabella proudly replies that she raises only elite meat. Sometime later, Norman begins to suspect that there are mom's spies among the children, and suggests that they gain new allies by telling the truth about the orphanage to the older kids, Don and Gilda. Don refuses to believe in mom's betrayal and, in his anger, even punches Ray. But Gilda believes Emma, and in tears, helps her convince Don. Later, Norman tells Emma and Ray that he hid ropes in 2 different places to test them separately. If one of them goes missing, then the person who took it is the spy. Early in the morning, Norman finds Emma in the library and asks whether she would leave behind whoever turns out to be the spy. Emma replies that she would save that person anyway, because they are all one family. Later, when the 3 of them are together, Norman suddenly declares that the spy is Ray. After all, who fits the role of a spy better than anyone else? The one who was always nearby, giving advice and altering the plan. At last, Ray confirms his words. He then explains that one day, he learned the orphanage's secret and struck a deal with the headmistress. In exchange for his help, she guaranteed his safety. And if he stopped the escape, he would be rewarded with information about the outside world, which he could use when he tried to escape himself. Norman points out that despite this, the 3rd rope meant for Ray is still in place, which means he didn't tell Mom everything. Ray goes on to confess that it was he who stole Connie's toy so that Emma and Norman would go to return it and learn the truth as well. He also knows how the chips work, but so far he hasn't been able to disable them. Emma forgives her friend and even sympathizes with him, and Norman suggests that Ray become a double agent who can deceive the headmistress. That evening, Ray shows Norman his stash and a homemade device that he believes can jam the transmitter signal. They only need to obtain the missing parts. Unexpectedly, Ray tells Norman that only 5 of them can be saved, the 3 of them as well as Don and Gilda. Taking the others along would be madness. Norman replies that Emma would never agree to that, and that he himself will not allow her to cry again as she did that night when she feared for the children's lives. A little later, Ray meets with Isabella and tells her that Norman is planning to poison her using insecticides and cleaning agents. Mom thanks him for his cooperation and casually mentions that there will be no new adoptions until January. Then, watching the boy's reaction, she adds that the next shipment will take place on the day of his 16th birthday. In the morning, Don and Gilda join the trio and begin planning the escape when, suddenly, Crone appears behind them. She has overheard everything and makes the children an unusual offer. She shows them her tattoo on her neck and a long scar on her chest, beneath which a transmitter is hidden. Since she would die immediately if she tried to leave the farm's grounds, Crone has decided to stay and aim for the highest position. If the children escape, Isabella will be dismissed for incompetence, and Crone will then be able to take her place. She proposes an alliance, and that evening, in her room, tells them everything she knows about the outside world. It turns out that, long ago, humans and demons fought each other until an agreement was signed between them. They divided the world to coexist. Humans who were captured continued to live in the demons' world, and the demons began breeding them like livestock, creating farms to raise them for meat. Learning that the teenagers already know about the implanted transmitters, Crone is surprised. Unable to obtain any concrete information from the children that she could use against Isabella, she decides to frame them and deal with the headmistress on her own. As a reward, Ray receives a Polaroid camera from Mom and, after taking several photos with the others, uses it to finish the signal jamming device. The children hide it inside a toy, but Crone is determined to find proof of the planned escape. She searches all the dormitories and finds the stuffed pig just as the anxious teenagers return to the room. The woman rejoices, believing she is on the verge of achieving her goal. But suddenly, Isabella appears and hands her a letter from headquarters informing her of a transfer to another farm. Furious, Crone packs her things and meets Grandma at the gate. The elderly woman once served as a mom at this farm, and now fully trusts Isabella. So she refuses even to listen to Crone's claims that the children are planning an escape. After her words, a demon appears behind Grandma and devours Crone. After lunch, Emma and Norman head for the wall, asking Don and Gilda to cover for them in case Ray fails to delay Mom. Meanwhile, Isabella locks Ray in his room, no longer needing him, and sets off after Emma and Norman. When Don sees her, he realizes that something has gone wrong and frees Ray. Shortly afterward, the headmistress catches up with the children by the wall. She urges them to accept their fate, saying that they were born to be eaten, and then breaks Emma's leg so she cannot escape. That night, Emma and Ray suggest that Norman escape on his own, since, according to the headmistress, he is to be adopted the very next day. Norman refuses, saying that if he did, one of them would be killed. Unexpectedly, Ray confesses that, unlike the other children, he remembers his early childhood and the time he spent at headquarters before being brought to the orphanage. Escaping through the main gate is impossible, because it leads to that very headquarters where he saw demons, infants, and adult humans all together. After finishing his story, Ray gives Norman the completed jammer and asks him to hide somewhere until Emma's leg heals, and then join them. After that, Norman returns to the dormitory and finds a pen in his bedside drawer, which Crone had placed there before leaving. In the morning, Mom announces to everyone that Norman will be leaving the orphanage that evening, and the children ask him to write them letters. Then, unnoticed by Isabella, Gilda and Don hand Norman a backpack with supplies. He leaves the orphanage grounds and climbs the wall. Emma and Ray believe everything is going according to plan, but a little later, they are horrified to see Norman coming back. He later tells them that there is a huge cliff on the other side of the wall, and they will not be able to climb down. The only suitable way across is a bridge that leads straight to headquarters. Unexpectedly, Norman returns the jammer, saying that he never used it. Moreover, he admits that he cannot place himself above the others, and intends to sacrifice himself so that Ray and Emma will have more time to prepare. That evening, during the farewell, Emma rushes to Norman in tears and begs him to run, but he remains firm in his resolve and promises to write letters, continuing to pretend for the sake of the other children. Mom, who has been watching the scene, quietly whispers to Emma that she will not be able to change anything. On the way to the gate, the boy asks Isabella whether she is happy, to which the woman replies with a forced smile, "Very." Soon a man appears, calling himself a keeper of order and someone who looks after people in the outside world. From him, Norman learns that demons lose their sanity if they stop eating human brains, and that the brains of intelligent people are especially valued among them. People in the human world are unaware of this, but there are those who have managed to escape from the farms. They are forced to hide from demons. Finding and eliminating them for the sake of the common good is the job of this mysterious man. Seeing a demon, Norman accepts his fate and expresses hope that in the outside world they have allies, and that sooner or later they will find a way to save the people raised on the farms. After Norman's death, Ray falls into despair and refuses to communicate with the other children, while Emma grieves alone in her room. There, the headmistress finds her and makes an unexpected offer to become the next mom of the orphanage. 2 months pass. In one day, Ray will turn 16, which means he will be taken for adoption. Late at night, Emma, fully recovered from her broken leg, comes to see him. They have barely spoken during these months in order to lull Mom's suspicions, but both admit that they have not given up. Throughout this time, the children have trained extensively, while Gilda and Don handled preparations, stockpiling food, water, and warm clothes in the forest. Their escape is planned for the following day. Ray seems doubtful of success and proposes his own plan to set the orphanage, and himself, on fire. While Mom is occupied with the blaze, the others will have enough time to escape, and since Ray is the smartest student, Isabella would never be forgiven for the loss of his brain. Ray lights a match and drops it onto the floor, and in the next moment, the dining hall is engulfed in flames. The alarm goes off. The headmistress rushes to Emma and sees on her device that Ray's tracker shows he is surrounded by fire. While she tries to save him, Emma and all the children leave the building. Realizing that the top student cannot be saved, Isabella suddenly recalls that all the children were wearing boots, as if they had known something was about to happen. In a rage, she runs outside, but her charges are already far away. Among them is Ray, whom Emma saved by intercepting the match. She then cut out his tracker and staged his presence, using his clothes to deceive Mom. In fact, the entire escape plan, including Ray's supposed suicide to exploit the chaos, had been devised by Norman for them. It was decided to leave the children under 6 years old at the orphanage, planning to return for them in a few years. At Emma's request, they tried to delay the woman when she rushed after the escapees. Meanwhile, the fleeing children climbed the wall and found the spot Norman had indicated where they could cross without using the bridge. Using a special device, Dawn secures a rope on the other side, after which the children cross the chasm one by one. When only Emma remains on the wall, Isabella catches up to her. She begs the girl not to do it and confesses that she once stood in the same place but realized she could not survive on the other side. Emma replies that she will leave the farm regardless, and that if necessary, they will create a new world. The headmistress threatens to cut the rope, but when Emma reaches the other side, she cannot bring herself to do it. Watching her children disappear into the forest, the woman sincerely wishes them luck. The film ends with Emma using the pen left by Crone to activate a hologram of William Minerva's owl, which then points the children toward a safe place, while Isabella is sentenced to death for negligence. And here, even more stories await you. Subscribe. Life is more interesting with us. See you soon.